Hello, Steve Arts 89 here. Doing a video on Star Wars. I've never done a video on Star Wars. I missed the whole Solo debacle and the Last Jedi and Episode 9 so far away. I haven't really thought to do anything about it. I have thought a lot about it because I've watched a lot of videos from people who had problems with the Last Jedi and what happened with Star Wars, with Solo. So it's interesting, but an article came up on ScreenRant, which another YouTuber did a video about, which was interesting. JJ finally did a decent interview about The Last Jedi and where he's at now with Episode 9. Now, he was brought in to set up the films. They stole him from Star Trek. He was doing Star Trek, and he should have been doing Star Wars in the first place because he never liked Star Trek. He didn't get it, and he, in a way, was the perfect person to reboot it for Star Trek for fans that don't like Star Trek, because he never liked Star Trek. So, but yeah, so they asked him to do Star Wars, and he said, "No, I can't. I'm doing Star Trek. I'm going to commit to my other franchise." And then he walked away while they were promoting Into Darkness. So right when Into Darkness was coming out, they've got this big announcement that he's going to go do Star Wars, which totally took Into Darkness's thunder, which and he wasn't there to really promote the film because everyone knew he was going on to Star Wars. That was a pretty shady slap in the face to Paramount, because they didn't give him what they promised. They promised they would deliver him Star Trek with all the merchandising that he'd be king of, and they didn't have the rights to it. CBS did, and they couldn't get it, and they couldn't get a deal that allowed them to merchandise and make the money that they wanted to do with the franchise. So he was unhappy and left. But he was given the opportunity to basically set out the arc and the whole trilogy, the new trilogy for 7, 8, and 9. And he did that, and he did the first film. It was well received. I saw it twice, which is more than I've seen any of the Star Wars films in the cinema. And then they gave it to Rian Johnson, and Kathleen Kennedy apparently let him do whatever he wanted. And since he didn't care about the franchise or the fans or the history or the other artists that worked on the film and their intentions for the films, he just did whatever he wanted and did his own story. And while there needs to be some level of freedom with an artist working within a franchise to have their own voice within that and their own style, there have to be guidelines and things that you stick by and respect, and he didn't do that at all. So there were things like he changed Rey's heritage. JJ had a specific heritage for her, and that would have played out in the next two films, and it was obviously very important, the heritage of the new Jedi, what the hell ever she is, and now that's changed, so who knows what that was meant to be. Now that was confirmed ages ago by Daisy Radley, I think is that the actress's name, that it was all planned out, and basically Rian or Rian Johnson, I don't know what his name is, I try to keep him out of my consciousness. He's like Alex Kurtzman from Star Trek Discovery. There's people that don't really care about the franchise, don't get it, just want to do their own thing, and don't care whose franchise they're destroying, and that people who love the shows and love the movies are attached. We've lived with these characters, especially with Star Wars, where they're dealing with the legacy characters. We've lived with them our whole lives, and to see them betrayed or abandoned or used in a way that they have been, it matters to us. I mean, it's not real, it's just science fiction movies, but if you're going to take entertainment seriously, it matters. So one of the things, the other thing was, of course, Mark Hamill wanted and suggested a reunion between the three main actors, Leia, Luke, and Solo. And they didn't do it. They didn't listen to him, and Rian specifically just wanted to do his own thing. He wanted Luke out on some island being this cowardly loser who plots to kill children in their sleep, and then just commits suicide by just giving himself to the Force. Just not the way we wanted to see that character treated or wanted him to go. And although there are elements in our films that feed into some of those things and about his character, they're not where he was at the end of the original trilogy, and not where we wanted to see him go. And no one was happy with it except Rian Johnson, apparently. So there's a lot of things like that just don't work, and it's interesting that JJ said very clearly that he had planned it all out, and now he has to take it from where it was left, pick it up, and then try and get it back to where it was before, where he planned for it to be. Now, that's him being very diplomatic. Basically, he had it planned out, he was given that job, this guy came in, screwed it up, and now he has to fix it up and get it back to where it would have been if he'd just done the trilogy, or if the person who came in after him respected the work that had been done and the groundwork and all that, and just continued the story. Because Rian Johnson was supposed to continue the story, not rewrite it and throw out what was already there. So the fans hate him. He was promised another trilogy by Kathleen Kennedy, and it sounds like he's being ghosted about that. He seems to think it's still happening, but doesn't seem like it is. And why Disney would put money into it, because they lost $700 million on The Last Jedi. It made $700 million less than The Force Awakens. Now, there's no guarantee they would have made the exact same money, but if the film was as good and didn't divide the fan base and slap so many people in the face, they would have come back for seconds like I didn't. And people who were told not to see it would have seen it. And people who didn't see Solo because they felt they were let down, disappointed that this film wouldn't be any good because of that, or were deliberately boycotting, would have seen Solo, and Solo wouldn't have lost money. As far as we can tell, Solo lost money for Disney because it cost a huge amount, and then they had to reshoot half of it because so much rubbish with the production. They started filming it, and it was being done as like a light buddy sort of comedy sort of movie between Chewbacca and Solo apparently, and they came in and said, no, this has to be Star Wars. So they got Ron Howard in to basically reshoot 2/3 of the film or something, which cost a fortune. So the budget was huge, and it made less than all the other films and less than Rogue One, which had no legacy characters and no real draw other than, oh, let's see what happens before the original trilogy. That's all it had, that and its own merits as a film, and it made a lot more money. I can't remember how much now. I think it made it. I don't think it made $1 billion, but it was comparable to The Last Jedi. So that's it. That's my first video on Star Wars. There'll be more because I do want to explore some of the politics behind the film and just the films in general, but I have to sit down and rewatch all of them and do a bit of research and try and do a decent video, not just me just rambling on about anything for 10 minutes and forgetting stuff and reading my notes and looking unprofessional. Well, not, you know what I mean, looking like I don't have my shit together. But I really just wanted to comment on it and just say something, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to start working on, I am working on some proper, more documentary style videos on shows and dramas and politics in the franchise and that I'm interested in, Star Wars, Star Trek. So I'm going to leave it there, and thanks for watching, and please feel free to like, share or comment. I need all the help I can get, all the advice I can get, and hopefully I'll have something to come back with interesting. Thanks, bye.